Welcome back, occultists, to another video. Have you ever shopped on the Facebook Marketplace? If so, then you know to always be wary of who you interact with. These stories may be triggering for some due to the subject matter. If you are new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe for more content. The ad on Facebook Marketplace seemed like a stroke of luck, exactly what I needed: a set of cheap, yet decent-looking furniture perfect for my cramped dorm room. The seller's instructions were a bit odd, though. Meet behind the Ashwood building at 8 p.m. Ask for apartment 14B, the message read. The Ashwood building was an infamous old residential block near campus, slated for demolition. I'd heard stories about the last few tenants refusing to leave, clinging to their homes amidst the decay. But for a bargain like this, I was willing to overlook the eerie setting. The evening was cold, the kind of biting chill that made you question your decisions. As I approached the Ashwood building, its looming silhouette against the twilight sky sent a shiver down my spine. It looked more like a relic from a bygone era than a place people still called home. The back alley where I was supposed to meet the seller was deserted, lit only by the flickering light of a single street lamp. I waited, checking my phone for any new messages, but there were none. The silence of the alley was oppressive, the occasional rustle of trash in the wind the only sound. After what felt like an eternity, a side door creaked open, and a figure emerged from the shadows. "You here for the furniture?" the man asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. "Yes, apartment 14B, right?" I replied, trying to mask my growing unease. He nodded, a grim smile playing on his lips. "Follow me," he said, turning back towards the door. Hesitantly, I followed him inside the building. The interior was as bleak as its exterior, with peeling wallpaper and a musty smell that spoke of years of neglect. We took the elevator, an ancient contraption that groaned and creaked alarmingly as it ascended. "The elevator doesn't go to the 14th floor, the man said as we passed the 12th floor, his voice echoing oddly in the cramped space. "We'll have to take the stairs from 13. My heart pounded in my chest. The building's decrepit state, the late hour, the solitary journey with a stranger, all of it felt like a scene straight out of a horror movie. When the elevator doors finally opened on the 13th floor, we stepped out into a dimly lit hallway, the air heavy with silence. The stairs to the next floor were hidden behind a nondescript door, marked only by years of crime. We ascended in silence, the only sound our footsteps on the creaking steps. But when we reached the top, confusion set in. There was no 14th floor, only a door leading to the roof. "The ad said apartment 14B, I said, my voice tinged with frustration and fear. "There is no 14B, the man replied, his voice suddenly menacing. "You should have known better than to come here." Before I could react, he shoved me through the door onto the roof, slamming it shut behind me. I was alone, the cold wind biting at my skin, the door immovable no matter how much I tried to force it open. Panic set in as I realized the truth: I'd walked into a trap. I paced the roof, searching for any other way down, but there were none. The edge offered a steep drop to the alley below, a certain death. My phone, my only lifeline, had no signal, a dead zone atop this forgotten building. Hours passed, the night deepening around me, my shouts for help swallowed by the vast emptiness of the city. Then, as if the building itself wished to add to my torment, I began to hear noises. Not the expected sounds of a city at night, but something far more disturbing. Whispers filled the air, a cacophony of voices that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. They spoke of hidden horrors within the walls of the Ashwood building, of a darkness that consumed those foolish enough to venture into its depths. I was now alone on that roof. Shadows moved at the periphery of my vision, shapes that were human and yet not, figures twisted by whatever malevolence lingered in this place. The realization that the building's last tenants were not human, at least, not anymore, was a horror that no logic could dispel. The night wore on, an endless cycle of terror and despair. My mind raced with thoughts of my fate, of becoming another whisper in the wind, another shadow on the roof. As dawn approached, the whispers grew louder, the shadows more daring, encroaching on the small circle of safety I claimed at the roof center. Then, as suddenly as it had all begun, silence fell. The first light of dawn broke over the horizon, casting the Ashwood building in a less menacing, though no less tragic, light. The door to the staircase creaked open, the man from the night before standing there, a look of what might have been pity in his eyes. "The Ashwood takes what it wants," he said, his voice a hollow echo of the night's terrors. "You were lucky. It didn't want you." "Not yet." I fled then, down the stairs, through the building's silent halls, and out into the breaking day. The city had never seemed so alive, so vibrant, a stark contrast to the night of horror I'd survived. The police found nothing when they searched the Ashwood building later that day. No sign of the man who'd lured me there, no hint of the shadows that had haunted the roof. The building stood silent, a monument to mysteries no one wanted to solve. I left the city soon after, unable to shake the feeling of being watched, of whispers just beyond hearing. The Ashwood building was demolished, its secrets buried beneath rubble and dust. But I know the truth, it wasn't just a building. It was a gateway to something older, darker, and infinitely more terrifying. I've always had an eye for bargains, an uncanny ability to sniff out deals that others would overlook. That's why, when I stumbled upon an antique item listed on Facebook Marketplace for a fraction of its worth, my interest was immediately piqued. The item in question was an old, intricately carved box, its origins an age of mystery, the kind of thing collectors would pay a fortune for. The seller's asking price was laughably low, almost too good to be true, but my penchant for wholesale deals blinded me to the red flags. The seller suggested we meet under the old bridge at the edge of town, a place as peculiar as the transaction itself. I found it odd, but the lure of the antique was too strong. When I arrived, I was greeted by an old woman, her back hunched, her hands gnarled with age, dressed in what looked like faded hospital scrubs. Her appearance was unsettling, her eyes too bright in her wrinkled face, but my focus was on the box she held in her hands. The transaction was swift. She seemed eager, almost desperate, to be rid of the item. As soon as the cash exchanged hands, she did something that chilled me to the bone. She sprinted away with a speed and agility that defied her age, disappearing into the shadows under the bridge as if being chased by demons only she could see. I was left standing there, the box in my hands, a sense of unease creeping up my spine. The old woman's behavior was unnerving, but I pushed the thought aside, attributing it to the eccentricities of age. Little did I know, that transaction had sealed my fate. Back home, I examined the box more closely. It was beautiful, yes, but there was something about it that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. An aura of malevolence seemed to emanate from it, a sense of wrongness I couldn't quite articulate. It was then that the weirdness began. Objects in my house started to move on their own, books falling off shelves, doors slamming shut without any draft. Whispered voices filled the night, indecipherable but unmistakably angry. Sleep became a distant memory, my nights plagued by nightmares of shadowy figures and the old woman's laughing face. I tried to get rid of the box, but it seemed to return to me no matter how far away I threw it or whom I gave it to. It always found its way back, appearing on my doorstep, in my car, even in my locked bedroom. The realization that I was trapped with this cursed item was a despair I can't describe. My life spiraled out of control. Friends distanced themselves, sensing something was wrong. I lost my job, my focus consumed by the need to rid myself of the box and the malevolence it brought with it. My health deteriorated, my nights haunted, my days filled with a pervasive dread. In a moment of clarity amid the madness, I decided to seek out the old woman, to return the box and break whatever hold it had over me. My search led me back to the bridge, to the hidden places of the city where the forgotten and lost linger. I found her, or perhaps she allowed herself to be found, in a derelict building that reeked of decay and old sorrows. She was waiting for me, her eyes gleaming with a mix of triumph and pity. "You seek to return it," she stated, not a question but a fact. "But the box chooses its keeper. You cannot simply return it." I pleaded with her, begged her to take it back, to end the nightmare that my life had become. She shook her head, her expression somber. "The box is bound to you now, its curse your curse. I was its keeper before you, trapped in a prison of my own making until I passed it on." Desperation took hold, a wild, frantic need to be free of the box's torment. "There has to be a way," I insisted, my voice breaking. "There is one," she conceded, her voice a whisper of silken shadows. "But the price is steep. You must find someone to willingly take the box, to become its new keeper. Only then will you be released." The horror of her words settled in my stomach like a stone. To condemn another to this torment was unthinkable, yet the desire to be free, to reclaim my life, was a siren call I found hard to resist. I left the old woman with the box clutched in my hands, a weight heavier than lead. The days that followed were a blur of internal struggle, the moral battle between my desire for freedom and the guilt of passing the curse to another innocent soul. In the end, the decision was taken from me. The box vanished as mysteriously as it had appeared in my life, leaving behind a silence that was as much a relief as it was a hollow victory. I was free, but at what cost? The whispers never truly left, a constant murmur at the edge of my consciousness, a reminder of the darkness that had touched my life. The old woman, the bridge, the box all became a part of my past, a chapter one tried to close, but some scars run too deep to ever fully heal. The experience changed me, left me wary of bargains too good to be true, of the shadows that lurk just out of sight. I often wonder about the box, about its new keeper and the cycle of torment that continues unabated. The thought haunts me, a specter of guilt that whispers of choices made and the price of freedom bought at the expense of another. My story is a cautionary tale, a warning of the dangers hidden in plain sight on places like Facebook Marketplace, where not all transactions are what they seem, and some bargains come with a price far beyond money. A price measured in sleepless nights, insanity frayed and lives unraveled. A reminder that some things are better left untouched, and some deals are better left unmade. In the depths of loneliness and the ceaseless search for connection, the ad on Facebook Marketplace seemed like a beacon of hope. A safe haven for those seeking to explore and unwind. Discretion guaranteed. At first glance, it appeared to be just another retreat, promising anonymity and freedom from the prying eyes of a judgmental society. My best friend, Lena, and I, wearied by the mundane and the isolation of our lives, were enticed by the allure of escape. How naive we were to think it would be our sanctuary. The location was secluded, nestled on the outskirts of town, described in the ad as a modern paradise designed for your deepest desires and utmost privacy. The pictures showcased a luxurious mansion, its architecture modern yet inviting. In our search for something, anything, to break the monotony of our existence, Lena and I decided to take the plunge. We contacted the host, a man named Adrian, who assured us of a weekend we'd never forget. His voice was smooth, laced with a charm that eased our apprehensions. We arrived on a Friday evening, the mansion more imposing in reality than in the photographs. It stood as an isolated monolith amidst sprawling grounds shrouded in twilight. Adrian greeted us at the door, his presence commanding, his smile a little too practiced. He gave us a tour, the interior lavish, each room meticulously designed to cater to various tastes and desires. The other guests nodded in our direction, their gazes lingering just a tad too long, sending shivers down my spine. As night descended, the mansion came alive with the soft murmur of conversations, the clinking of glasses, and the occasional laughter that seemed to carry an undercurrent of something else, something I couldn't quite place. Lena and I stuck close together, our initial excitement giving way to a sense of unease. There was a palpable tension in the air, an electric charge that seemed to promise more than just casual encounters. Adrian announced the beginning of the evening's festivities, a masked ball where the real magic happens. Masks were provided, elegant and ornate, designed to conceal our identities while adding an element of mystique. The concept, thrilling in theory, quickly became a nightmare. Behind the masks, the guests transformed, their inhibitions shed alongside their personas. The atmosphere thickened with an intensity that bordered on frenzy. Lena and I found ourselves separated in the chaos, swept up in the throng of bodies moving to a rhythm dictated by desire and darkness. My heart raced, panic setting in as I searched for her in vain. The mansion had become a labyrinth, each turn leading me further into its depths. It was then that the nature of our sanctuary revealed itself. In hidden rooms and shadowed corners, the true purpose of the mansion unfolded, a macabre tableau of human depravity, each scene more horrifying than the last. The guests, no longer mere participants in a weekend of liberation, or predators, their appetites unbound by morality or conscience. I stumbled upon a room, the door slightly ajar, and what I saw within will haunt me forever. Lena, my dear friend, caught in the clutches of a nightmare, surrounded by masked figures whose intentions were as clear as they were monstrous. Her eyes met mine, terror and betrayal etched into her gaze, a silent plea for salvation. In that moment, fueled by adrenaline and desperation, I acted. I fought with a ferocity I didn't know I possessed, tearing Lena away from the grasp of her assailants. We ran, the mansion a torturous maze that seemed to mock our escape with its never-ending corridors. The night air was a cold slap to our senses as we burst from the mansion, the ground beneath our feet uncertain. We didn't stop, didn't dare look back until the lights of the mansion were but a distant glow on the horizon. The aftermath was a blur of police statements and hospital visits, the reality of our ordeal a heavy weight upon our souls. Adrian, along with many of his guests, vanished into the ether, the mansion a silent witness to the horrors it had housed. In the weeks that followed, Lena and I clung to each other, the only solace in the storm that had swept through our lives. The world moved on, indifferent to the shadows that now lingered in our gaze, the scars that marred not just our bodies, but our spirits. The ad on Facebook Marketplace disappeared, as if it had never existed, a ghost in the machine. But we knew the truth. We had sought an escape, a momentary lapse from reality, and had found ourselves in a nightmare that promised no awakening. The mansion, our supposed sanctuary, had been a facade, a lure designed to draw in the lonely, the curious, and the desperate. Behind its walls, the veneer of sophistication and liberty masked a den of horrors, a place where the darkest facets of human desire were not just explored but celebrated. As I write this, my hands tremble, not just from the chill that has settled deep within my bones, but from the knowledge that such places exist, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the next lonely soul to whisper promises of escape. Lena and I, bound by our shared trauma, have found a semblance of peace in the aftermath. But the memories linger, a constant reminder of the night we danced with devils, masked not just by fabric but by the very darkness that resides in the heart of man. Our ordeal has become a cautionary tale, a stark warning of the dangers that lurk behind the allure of anonymity and the pursuit of forbidden pleasures. We had sought to unwind, to explore the boundaries of our desires, and in doing so, we had unwound the very fabric of our beings. The Facebook Marketplace ad, a simple post designed to entice and ensnare, had promised a safe place to unwind and have intimate relations. But there was nothing safe about it, nothing sacred in the sanctuary it offered. It was a trap, baited with the promise of freedom and escape, only to reveal the chains that bind us to our darkest natures. In the end, Lena and I survived, but we are forever changed, our trust shattered, our spirits scarred by the knowledge of what humans are capable of when given the mask of anonymity. Our search for connection, for a moment of escape from the solitude of our existence, led us into the heart of darkness, a journey from which we will spend a lifetime trying to return.